Alright, it's time. We're gonna talk about the Cyclone Slayer League starter. Yes, this is a week old, and there is a good reason as to why. Cyclone got nerfed, rather hard actually, less area of effect and also less damage, so I wanted to see the impact of these changes in game. Besides that, this league isn't very melee friendly, it favors spells, projectiles and minions, so with all of that being said, let's talk about spinning to win. The general concept of the build is we're gonna be playing a Cyclone Fist only Slayer using Kitaba's Fist as our weapon. We chose the Slayer because we get to be physical reflect immune and we also leech a lot while he also favors two-handed weapons. At the same time we're using Kitaba's Fist because for a unique axe it does the job just fine, but most importantly it destroys enemies on kill, which is perfect because that means we reduce the funny stuff coming from enemy deaths. So how do we level up this guy? Well, it's actually very easy. We begin by taking the attack speed side of the duelist start until we get to Art of the Gladiator. From there, we move towards Born to Fight on the Marauder start, but before that we take Destroyer right under Master of the Arena. Once we are there, we move towards the two-hand nodes towards Resolute Technique. Once we have Resolute Technique, we go upwards towards the Templar start with the goal of taking Amplify. From there, we go back to the duelist start and move towards Charging Offensive. It is around this point that you should have done your first Labyrinth, and you'd be taking Endless Hunger. Early Blood immunity and Stun immunity while leeching is great, while also giving us plenty of leech for the leveling process. We also invest in one leech node. From there we move towards the Axe Cluster under Resolute Technique and grab everything. From that point we move towards Constitution and take everything in there as well, including Path of the Warrior. We also take attack speed from the cluster right under those nodes. From there we just finish by taking life everywhere we missed it. However, another very important cluster is the Martial Experience Wheel. We take the 4-point side because those nodes have increased life recovery per second from leech, which is gonna be huge for us in order to sustain some hits without relying on the life flask. We're also gonna be taking 4 jewel sockets and they are very important to complete the character. Before we move on, let me remind you that we do not ally ourselves with any bandits. We take the 2 points because they are more beneficial to us than any of the bonuses given by the bandits. The rest of the Ascendancy process goes as follows. Headsman in the Crew Lab, Bane of Legends in the Merciless Lab, and Brutal Fervor for the Uber Lab. I don't think I gotta go in depth as to why we take those notes, but in case you need a reason, we want immunity to Physical Reflect from Headsman, we want to instantly kill enemies below 20% health from Bane of Legends, and lastly, we want the life leech effects to not be removed, even when we are at full health, from Brutal Fervor. Now, let's talk about the gear, and to be honest, I'm proud of this little mess I got going on. Kitaba's Fist is the first priority, mainly for the damage boost and the enemies destroyed on kill, plus some additional mana leech and life leech should you need it. After acquiring the axe, your body armor takes the spotlight. Since this league just started and everything has weird prices as the economy settles, you can start the character with just a 5 link. Eventually though, you want the 6 link. You're gonna want socket that gems are supported by level 1 maim. If you cannot justify getting maim on the chest, you can use flesh and stone instead of haste as an aura, and you pretty much get the same effect, though with less attack speed and movement speed. Next is the jewelry. First, the amulet. Physical damage to attacks, plenty of dexterity and intelligence, life and resistances. Optimally, an open prefix to craft increased area and increased area damage which come from the syndicate. Make sure you get an ass-kicking amulet because you're gonna anoint the Ami. I recommend Blast Radius as it gives you 10% increased area of effect and 20% increased area damage. However, if you have the currency / oils for tenacity, go ahead and take that instead. Next is your none out of the ordinary ring. Resistances, life, physical damage to attacks is the way to go. Optimal in open prefix to craft increased damage that comes from the Leo jewelry. Now for the other ring. When you begin the character, feel free to use Mark of Submission to house vulnerability. When you get the currency, or if you find them cheap, get a ring with cursed enemies with level 5 vulnerability on hit. As long as it has life, resists and physical damage to attacks, this is better than the Mark of Submission setup. For your boots, life, resists, movement speed and dexterity if it fits. I recommend 2-tone boots because you can get nice amounts of resistances from this. Next are your gloves. Spike gloves with life, resists, physical damage to attacks and attack speed. You may not find a pair with these exact things for cheap, so if you can craft at least one thing I mentioned and the rest come with the gloves, you are set. Next is the helmet and you're gonna craft one. We're gonna use jagged fossils on helmets until we get the nearby enemies take 9% increased physical damage. Mandatory modifier. You also need life, resists and if you can, dexterity. Lastly, the belt, and we want a Stygian Vice crafted once again with a jagged fossil for increased global physical damage. You want life, resists, and an open prefix to craft increased damage. Finally, for the flasks, you want a life one, a movement speed one, a lion's roar, a sulfur, and a silver flask. Since you are bleed immune, you can focus on getting shock and freeze immunity on 2 of the non-unique flasks. However, on either the sulfur or the silver flask, you want a new modifier, increase attack speed during flask effect. Nifty little DPS increase on a sip. Okay, now we talk about skills. Cyclone is in our chest, linked to melee physical damage, rage, brutality, pulverize, fortify, and intrinsically on the chest, maim. Again, if you cannot get maim here, sacrifice haste for flesh and stone. However, if you big dick the chest and get maim, your aura setup looks like this: Blood and Sand, Haste, Herald of Purity, and War Banner. You're gonna be on blood stance 100% of the time. 5% less area of effect is nothing to worry about. For moving around, Lip Slam linked to faster attacks, linked to blood magic, and if you want, either endurance charge on stun or inspiration support. At the same time, you also want a flame golem and blood rage supported by inspiration. Lastly, we want Ancestral Protector and Baal Ancestral Warchief, both linked to chance to stun. Baal Ancestral Warchief is not mandatory to begin mapping, but the deeper you go into the Atlas, the more vital he becomes. The Raging Pogo Stick is a nice aid in boss fights and also life savior on the blighted maps. Which brings us to the hard-hitting questions: is this build viable for Blight League? And the answer is, well, yes, but actually maybe. What? What do you mean maybe? Until blighted maps are not cancer and our computers stop melting during these activities, I'd restrain myself from playing blighted maps. Between the frame rate pretending it was shocked and the servers pretending you're lagging on the instance, it becomes a bit frustrating to play with Cyclone inside a blighted map. That doesn't mean that you can do them, but it does mean that they aren't gonna be very fun nor enjoyable to deal with. At least for the time being. If I were you, I'd save those maps in my vault and wait until the blighted maps become less of a cluster dock. Having said all of that, before you click out and dislike the video, when it comes down to it, we clear blight events inside maps like champs. The Lion's Roar especially helps us get those fiends off the pump. At the same time, we deal big chunks of damage to the majority of mobs, so clearing a lane with a single sweep while cycloning is extremely satisfying. Just beware of pushing mobs towards the pump when using Lion's Roar. That isn't gonna be very fun to watch. Also, remember the Raging Pogo Stick? This guy clears lanes on his own and can also be a pain in the ass against unique monsters pushing towards the pump, so don't forget about him and he won't let you down. So what else do I have up my sleeve? Since he was my league starter, I can tell you that I cleared the majority of content I've done so far without much struggle. Remember that at the end of the day you're playing melee and melee needs you to be face to face with enemies. This can lead to extremely satisfying gameplay or very annoying situations. At the same time, in a relatively rip league like Blight, melee may not be the smartest idea. But you can kick the Elder's butt on red maps without much problem. It may be a bit slow, but it's pretty safe and consistent. I'd wager that with more patience you could even tackle Shaper and his Guardians, but that might require additional min-maxing to feel comfortable enough. However, Cyclone, despite the nerfs, is doing pretty good if you commit to investing moderate currency and time into the character. In reality, the most expensive thing I've got equipped is the chest, because serrated fossils were 11 cows a pop when I crafted it. Since I failed 10 times, that's 110 cows lost to the void. And even then, it's not like I spent 5 exiles into the character already. If anything, it seems that playing non-crit melee is pretty cheap, at least for now. For a league starter, I think he got the job done quite efficiently and without much hassle, which is what I was looking for in the end. I normally abandon league starters when they hit level 85-ish because either they aren't cutting it anymore or I'm bored of them already. I pushed to 92 with this guy and I'm pretty satisfied where he's finishing right now. So yeah, gonna be starting a new character soon. I won't be spoiling what they may end up being because to be honest I'm not 100% sure on what to play. But whatever it is, we will also be getting a preview and a guide just like with this guy. We may talk some more about Blight very soon, because I think there are some things that are not okay in the league, not in the level of synthesis, but more in the lines of a game and server performance issue. I don't know about it yet, we'll see. So with all of that being said, I'm out. My voice got extremely raspy at the end of the video and I do apologize for that. I may be getting sick and I gotta fix that soon. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to rate, comment and subscribe. Anyways, be sure to tune in next time where we try to build a new character before the Mathiel effect screws with our build plans. See ya!